Hey there, everybody. Ginger's here from Coffee Books. Yeah, I can't do words right now. Too many late nights. Coffee Books Repeat. And we're finally live here. This is going to be our last session of the Chicago Writers Retreat. We're just finishing up some breakfast right now. I know it's it's like 10 o'clock, whatever. Uh, there's going to probably be some crappy audio because we're in a big oasis. There's a lot of activity going on. I've got a really good mic. The downside of that is it picks up everything. So just try to bear with us. We're actually using the webcam on my Surface. So just try to bear with us. I hope you can hear us all right as we're going along. I'll try to check in as we're talking and, try to check in on any comments. This is going over YouTube. It's not on Periscope because I don't have Periscope set up, and I got to figure it out yet. So another time, it's possible I'll switch to that. But until then, we're just going to chat a little bit, talk about plans for the next Writers Retreat, and have a good roundtable discussion before we wrap everything up today. So enjoy the broadcast. Feel free to comment on Twitter, and hopefully we will. Hopefully we'll be able to see you and interact a little bit. All right. Until then. We'll see you. After we're all done eating, we'll switch around so you can actually see our faces instead of the back of our heads. All right? We are live. So.
Hi. Hey boys.
Cool. Tommy, what's up?
I saw nothing. I don't know what you're talking about.
So I assume I will move my chair just so I don't have my back to our viewers and make them think I'm some kind of prick.
Hello. And then they started answering. I'm like, that's not helpful. That's what I was doing last night in my head. Eric was reading his stuff. It's like Marco, and I'm. Oh no. I'm like, I'm not actually thinking that, but I feel like it's like, I'm sorry, it's a reflex.
Maybe I need to change that name too.
My coworkers asked me about this one question.
Are we able to move the mic closer to us, like on a stool, do you think?
That's a really good mic.
Okay. Like, it's more so like, I don't want interference from folks, like, vacuum man back there.
Blender Man, actually.
Blender Man.
It's like Blender Man.
Let's know you're right.
Hello. We're going to try to get the mic in a better spot so you're more like as opposed to other people. Hopefully I can do it without muting the microphone again. Moving a chair. It's going to get weird. It is like 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Thereabouts.
Yeah. The third of only one we've done. The third of two. Technically, we have 4 scheduled. I need your feedback to finish it. Yeah, that's, I know we skipped it.
Hopefully nobody wants to cross and trip forward.
Wait, I got a solution.
That's what I was gonna say.
Thank you.
Put another one on that side so that nobody I mean, if you see a chair, those two, like, I should not walk there because I'll walk into the chair. But, you know.
Maybe 2 chairs. Put a second one there. Just
because they're going to try to walk around the chair.
right.
And walk.
Pretty good call.
I don't know.
If Hazel is on, text me and I will do your reading, since you know it came to me as soon as I entered my room last night, as my phone was connected to the.
Totally makes sense.
I think my phone was connected to the 3rd floor internet.
I caught that on the. I caught that in the chat. Yeah. I was actually thinking that. Well, I was actually thinking it's funny. While I was over in line in Starbucks, there, it's like, we're like kind of all having 3 separate conversations with each other, though.
Yeah, I noticed that because we got the one that Ann made. We've got writer retreat chat, and then we've got like just texting.
Yeah, well, and then of course, we're all here talking to each other in person. I just find it humorous. One of the interesting little fun things of the digital age.
It happens with all the time. We have our miraculous chat, we have our Mad Hat Cats chat, and then we individually are talking to each other, and we'll also be texting at the same time.
And so it's like we try to somehow get them up to, like, if we're talking about Mad Cat Out, we'll put that in that chat. If we're talking about whatever, plus we have Billy in the miraculous one.
chat.
He's not the other.
Right. Yeah, and then we have the group text between me, her, and Mackenzie.
Yeah, and so it's like, yeah.
All right. Well, Eric.
Erica left. She was going to teach us scrivener.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, what does that have to do, like a virtual
well,
session or something?
Yeah, well, that or
Yeah,
we
I can show
actually,
some stuff
and for
too.
people online too, we talked about having in 6 months having another Illinois one.
Yeah, do we want to discuss
That before the
future plans before we get into our decision?
yes.
Let's do that.
All right. So one of the things that we talked about this morning was I do want to do one somewhere else, and I don't know, we could do a vote thing or whatever. Continental only. Sorry to those of us across the pond, but
if you'd rather move, you certainly can.
and I'm thinking in a year. So August of next year, we'll do a retreat somewhere.
That's not here because this place was all.
That's a good idea.
But in 6 months, so I guess February. In February, I think we'll do one, or March, I don't know, depending whatever the weather looks like. We'll do one somewhere else in Illinois that's a little closer for Eric. And we talked about Kankakee or Elgin.
In like upward to bumper.
Yeah, because if we did Rockford, there's that Van Gelden bus that drives right into Rockford.
Yeah.
Are not next to the internet.
Yeah. We'll figure that out, but the important thing is maybe 6 months another one here
Yes.
in this area.
And then August of next year, one somewhere that's not Illinois.
Right.
So we've proposals have been Seattle, I believe North Carolina, Coast, Jersey, Pennsylvania. It's like,
Yes.
Yes, I do.
And so somewhere Grandpa's Grandpa's probably not awake yet because he's old.
no, they get up with the cows. Old people get up with the cows.
Oh, that's right.
They gotta feed the
that
chickens.
rooster goes off, and I gotta get to my ass.
We don't use them fandangled alarm clocks.
That's right.
Pepperidge Farm, remembers?
Nature done gave me an alarm clock with feathers, and I use it. Anyway,
I'm so glad he's not watching right now.
how do you know he's not watching right now?
Yeah, it's true. He's probably watching.
We love
right
you,
now.
Dan.
We love you.
Into Florida or
I don't know that we have anybody in Florida. I would want to do it where we have a couple people. Like Illinois made sense because a lot of us were here or very close. I would do Missouri, except Sean sucks and doesn't show up anyway. He's gonna be stay at my parents' house. He's only an hour away from my parents, but yeah, I don't know.
stay there.
So anybody who's watching, comment below
Yes.
where you'd like it
Where-
to be.
We should put up a poll.
Yeah,
Make a
cool.
group and put up a poll.
Yeah, we should totally put up a poll and figure that out. And yeah, comment right on Twitter if you can. Anyone who's watching, because like I said, I don't have Periscope set up, so go with this. And also apologies to anybody who gets the second hand, who expected to be tagged first hand, because I couldn't find one of Erica's tweets that had everybody easily tagged in it.
Am I tagged?
So no, I didn't take anybody that's actually here.
Okay.
Because, well, we're here.
So
Maybe we want to be included.
I saved the tags for people that are not physically here.
Mentally, physically,
Yeah, mentally isn't a requirement. Physically,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so that's our idea. I'll do a poll, a regional poll, and then once we have the region narrowed down, then we'll do a more specific, like state and town one. But basically, Midwest. A year from now, we won't be Midwest. It'll either be South, East, or West.
All right. So we've got that out of the way. Again, we'll throw up a poll just to get a consensus of where everyone would prefer to have it.
I go where she drives me.
Fair enough.
I go too.
What's that?
I said I go where you drive me.
I'll need a minivan by then.
I go too.
That's true. Yes, we'll load
We'll
up.
just run a U-Haul right in the back.
There we go.
New York, here we come.
Well, we'll be running cars. We gotta rent one of
Where's
those
that your house
buses.
filling?
I hope your dad
talking.
likes people.
Take turns driving and sleep.
There you go. It's actually just a writer's retreat road trip.
There.
Ooh, yeah, that's awesome.
That actually might be a good idea.
Okay, so
We got a bus.
Writer Retreat Road Trip 2019. No, I feel like it needs to be 2020 just
Yeah.
because it sounds cooler and we can make t-shirts by then. We're gonna get a van. Like,
yeah.
what's it? Oh yeah, that's true. What, we're gonna get a Scooby bus. It'll be a Scooby bus. We'll spray paint the side or something. I don't know. Some of us are artists. Moose and I'll go at it. Oh, that's right. And my artist. Yeah. Anyway, so I do kind of feel like that may end up happening because we're a bunch of hippies. Well, Eric is. He's a boy with long hair. He's a hippie.
Long hair hippie freak.
Too.
This is true.
And Grandpa will just throw him in the truck and he just, well, people don't know where they
You're
are.
gonna sit there and complain about how young people drive.
Right, exactly. Oh, you're gonna
2 weeks ago.
I'd be like, then you drive.
I'm like, that would be so awesome if we did that.
I kind of want to do that, but like,
and I could accrue some vacation days too.
oh, that's true. Yeah. I mean, we would all have to take some mega vacation days. Hopefully, I'm only writing by then. Really, hopefully, I'm only writing by then.
Okay.
Sorry, Devin.
So,
You know, as soon
we
as
we don't have an overwhelming amount of time. So I was thinking maybe we do a short roundtable session, like
Sounds
an
good.
hour, and then we can all have an hour to get some writing done
Yes.
and
And
go
we're
from
gonna
there.
we're gonna do open writing as opposed to closed writing because Nikki and I need to work together. So,
Okay. All right. So topics.
my topics do not apply to people who are here. So, we can talk about.
We could talk about characters. There's a lot of those yesterday. Because we talked about outlining yesterday.
Yeah, we
did.
did outline a lot yesterday.
That,
Yep.
that was good.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I'm trying to think of what else we had for topics. We had
Character development,
Yeah.
overcoming writer's block, which we touched on when talking about outlining.
Yeah.
One of my questions was about like industry connections and like marketing and stuff like that. But a lot of the people who have that experience are not here right now. So that's why I feel like that would be a 3-second conversation where everyone would go, "Oh, good question."
Basically.
Well, we'll do. We should actually do that as part of like a hangout or something.
That would be yeah.
Like a video channel.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
especially like the industry connections thing, because like, I mean, a lot of us know like an editor or an artist or an artist and editor, or like as Nikki's looking over here, like, so just things like that. But all right,
I was always part of Society of Professional Journalists. I was part of that club.
that's what I figured. You'd know some people on that end too.
And then, because I always communicate with them, and then figure out who writes, or just stick with everything. And then also AIGA, which is a graphic designing as well. So I need that.
So you're gonna need to get on Twitter before we do this.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're not gonna know. And we will connect you to Jen's Twitter and eventually Jess's Twitter when they get them. Nikki doesn't get a Twitter yet, which you will, and I'll manage it.
In 2
but
years,
no,
Nikki.
2 years, yeah.
I'm an overprotective mom. I admit it.
I'm an overprotective mom too, which is why she's not on Twitter. Especially knowing some of the conversations we've gotten into as of late. Was it?
His laugh sounded so awful.
Okay. Eric, what did you have written down on yours, or were there already things?
Character development is definitely one that we can do. I also had one that I put in yesterday was concerning world building. Like, okay, when do you just stop working out all the tiny little details?
Okay.
When do you just go, my world is detailed enough for me to get started, and if I run across anything else, I'll get going. Because I know that for me, getting started on a story, I like to have all the holes filled. I mean, I was talking yesterday.
Yeah.
I went into a lot of detail about what the people include, all the stuff. Spent a lot of time not before even characters, really.
We can either talk about these both in sync, or we can have Jolene kind of time us at a half and half.
That's the plan. I like that.
A half and half, okay. But yeah, I wanted to say this about both world building and character development is that and actually, you know what, Jen, let's move this table back a little bit because I'm leaning over you to see him. So there we go. All right. But you know, as we discussed yesterday, I'm clearly a planner, and you know, as a former English teacher, I've seen what happens when you don't plan. When you're like, nah, I can just get in the car and drive anywhere for vacation with no plans. Then you end up at and then
so you're in charge of the agenda. So you're in charge of the agenda for Road Trip 2020 then?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yes.
I'm in for it.
And Rebecca Chipmunk will help me because was she the other one who said she was a planner, or no? It was Bree. Was it Bree who said she was the?
Bree's she's like a chapter by chapter outline.
Yes,
girl.
Bree and I.
want to help too. I want to plan.
Sounds good.
I'm really good at that.
All right.
Sounds good. All right. But in regards to that, though, I do think there is a point in which you can do too much planning. When I first started writing, like when I was 18, I'm clearly not 18 anymore. In a while, I used to do kind of like Jolene and I were doing with Navigating the Dreamscape character profiles every time, and I got just doing that, planning your characters ahead of time. And I think that eventually you do kind of get to the point where you don't have to do so much profiling because you automatically are doing that, and like a half a sentence blurb about your character may be all you need. And part of the reason I say that, and the same thing with world building.
Okay.
If it's something that you need to know for the story, plan it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't need to know what religions they practice if that doesn't have anything to do with that. It doesn't matter that deer meat doesn't exist in that world unless it directly relates to the story. Because if you do that, you lock yourself into this thing where you feel like you're not being honest when you go through your story. You watch your head movie, your characters take over, and suddenly that's not even a thing now. Or you find yourself like sticking information in there that's just irrelevant to your story, just because it's there. Yeah, you know, when I discuss with my editor some stories, sometimes I'll tell her like, you know, here's a scene that's not in the book, but it happens, but nobody knows it but me. You know, and it's that kind of thing. Like there'll be things that only you know. Yeah. They don't have to go in the book.
And I see that all the time doing my freelance editing.
Yeah.
I see a lot of times where a writer will just brain dump on a page. And it's like, I don't need to know any of this.
Yes, and
it's like you could sit. It's like, okay, if you think this information is really important, and sometimes it is, but even so, you can still. I don't need to know all of this around it. Right. I need to know that.
Again.
I need to know that this guy had education. That's why he understands this language. I don't need to know who his tutor was. I don't need to know how much he liked it or didn't like it, and I certainly don't need to know how long he went to class every day. Just just as an example. On the other hand, though, a lot of times writers stuff doesn't get from the brain onto the page. A lot of times it's like it's up here, and because they understand it, because they know all the background, it's assumed. It's assumed in their own mind. So they write stuff. They write like bare minimum stuff on the page.
Right.
And it's like, no, I really actually do need to know more here. Why does How does this person know this person? Why would you do this? Oh, it's because of this and this. Well, that's nowhere on the page at all. It's got to be somewhere. It's got to be somewhere in the text.
I have the background to explain how.
Right, and and the thing is, like, sometimes there doesn't need to be, but in the case of like what he's talking about, like, yeah, it does need to be there. Sometimes it is just because it naturally makes sense to put it later in the story. Like a lot of the times that, when I was first writing, I would struggle with loading the backstory into the first couple chapters, and then you're bored. So I found it like, especially because agents will only read usually the first 10 pages of the first chapter. If that's exposition, you are not selling your book.
Yeah, you're done.
Right. So it makes more sense sometimes to start right with action and then backtrack and go out of sequence. But in regards to what you were saying, like, as far as like dumping on the page or things that don't really matter, like if he has a degree and it matters to the story, say it.
Right.
But one of the things that I've been kind of like going back and forth that you need to strike a happy medium is, with character profiling, the first thing I always used to do was say what they look like in my character profile. And I stopped doing that because I know what they look like in my head. But Jolene and Moose have called me out a couple times on this where I keep forgetting what color someone's eyes are. So that is something that I should have written down because I'm pretty sure that Aiden has blue eyes, not green. I don't know what color eyes there are, but the thing is, this is one of the things that Jess and I were, the comments on her book is when she was first writing, her first page was, this person is this tall with this color hair and this color eyes, and this is what they look like. Where like it was paragraph after paragraph of what people look like. And you've changed it, and it was so much better after you like changed it, and it's embedded in the story or it's not there at all. Like if she's blonde and that has to do with something, tell us. Otherwise, she flipped her blonde hair over her shoulder is perfectly fine anywhere in the book. Right. As long as it's soon enough to where, you're helping the reader form the picture, but
You don't want it
with attitude. Yeah.
right. Like in Mad Cat Hat, it matters that they have green eyes.
Saucily.
So like, yeah, it's saucily. But like I constantly mention the color of their eyes because it's green. It matters. It actually has a point in the story. Hattie's eyes, it doesn't matter what color her eyes are. I don't think Ben even has eyes. I never say he has eyebrows. The eyebrows are a whole character in and of themselves.
He has glasses.
He has
so
glasses,
so
yes.
presumably he has eyes.
Right.
I don't think you've ever described what his eye color is, but it's like he looks like Benedict Cumberbatch, so just Google that.
I mean, you just assume every handsome man in my story looks like Benedict.
Well, and yesterday when I was writing my story, I actually ran into the first place where I need, not for a character, but I ran into the first place where it's like, okay, I'm going to need to remember details about this location.
Yeah.
Like the cave, actually. Mm-hmm. So I actually wrote at the top of the page, it's like, cave descriptions, just so I can put into my own private little wiki later on, because they're going to be coming back there, so I got to remember what it looks like.
Yeah. Well, that was when we were having our small group yesterday, the feedback, Rebecca was talking about how she has a mystery that she's writing, and the map of the area is necessary, and she was struggling to find a way to be informative without being like, all right, so here's what this town looks like. On this street is blah, 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 and behind this and around the corner, because it all had to do with the plot. But that's the kind of thing where, like, yeah, planning your map ahead of time, like your world, you have to. Because if it's relevant to the story, it reminds me of, is that Lord of the Rings, where they actually have the map?
Yeah.
Of, like, in the beginning of the book.
A lot of fantasy.
Actually, there's a few with Aragon has it.
Yeah, like, if it matters. In Mad Cat Hat, I'm not putting a map. Who cares? Who cares how far away the sanctuary is from the school? It's no relevance to it. But like, if it makes the difference, like it does with Rebecca's mystery story, then yeah, you have to tell people and you have to have planned it ahead of time. Right.
And even, actually, I just saw a thing, not to go too much on the maps thing, but Eowyn the Fair, she posted a thing on YouTube just the other day, on Twitter, just the other day. I asked a question about maps because she's got a map for a book, but if she puts it in the front, there's spoilers for the story in it. She's like, do I not do a map? Do I just risk the spoilers? Or should I put it in the back so people can find it later on? Okay, yeah, or after the relevant chapter, so no more spoilers. And then
like in the middle of the chapter, like they're describing it, and the next page is a picture.
Okay, yeah, I mean that's a good idea too. I don't think that was on the poll, so Eowyn, if you're watching, that's a good idea. Maybe she was tagged. Then maybe that idea, maybe throw it in the at the end of a relevant chapter. But that's, of course, there's the spoilers throughout the story, in which case, yeah, that back of the book idea may not be a bad one.
Yeah.
Or honestly, I don't even really look at maps in the book.
I don't either.
I never have. I'm like, yep, that's
like,
cool.
That's
Moving
pretty
on.
art and moving on. Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, I know there's people that absolutely love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's something I wanted to say. I wrote down my note to myself so I'd remember. Something came up that with both me and Billy, and I don't know if he's watching because I don't think he was tagged. But
my bad, Billy.
We both had somebody on two different stories, two different people question us on the reality of it. That's not believable. So I want to say, when talking about world building, unless it's nonfiction, the rules of this world do not apply. So now it just so happened that the criticism that I'd received from Mad Cat Hat was not accurate, because it was something that happened in this real world. Like, more than one person has said, wow, Hattie's really young to be on her own. That's intentional. She's supposed to be too young to be on her own. That's the driving force of how she gets this teacher involved in her life, who's clearly a little too focused on her for everyone's comfort. That's also intentional. But somebody, and as you read the story, you kind of pick up on why that is, or if I've told you already, but it's supposed to make you uncomfortable. But somebody had said, that it completely undermined the entire plot of the entire story, that Hattie was so young and left alone because the teacher would never have left it that way and would have reported it to the authorities, and she would have been placed in foster care. So here's the thing. First of all, it's a book about cats who turn into people, so I'm just going to say maybe it doesn't take place here, but the rules don't have to apply of this world. In that case, though, it just so happened that was based on an actual event where we did have a student who was whose parents or mother hadn't been home in over 8 months and lived in the same apartment building as his mother's cousin. And we reported it, and they said, family lives on the premises. He's fine.
Yeah.
So it's,
So that is legit. You do hear stories like that on occasion, where somebody that young is on their own, and that's just the way it's going to be.
Right.
And well, all right then. And actually, I'm gonna.
We would do no, right? No, but again,
Does it happen?
But it's kind of the point. We all know that Hattie's mom is not a great mother.
Right. It's part of the story. But so that's the yes, she does. That's the other thing that I want to say, is that if you're breaking the rules of this world, make it purposeful. Like in I want to say it's Dune, where everyone's eyes glow blue, and you're like, what the heck? Why is that? Well, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
They didn't just change that rule of the world for the heck of it. So if in your world everyone's skin is green and scaly, give it a reason. Don't change it just for the sake of world building.
Right. And I'm actually going to push back just a tiny bit on what you said, as far as if it's a work of fiction, the rules of this world don't necessarily apply. I'm actually, unless there is something that okay, this is obviously this world. I always, my go-to example is always like the X-Men. You've got, it's like, okay, obviously in the real world, evolution does not work such that people shoot laser beams out of their eyes and grow wings out of the back. But
Husband gyms.
I'm sorry.
I was promised at birth wings and laser eyes.
I'm sorry if someone sold you that bottle of snake oil, man. You got to talk about it later.
My whole life, and all I got was headaches.
I
was told I'd be getting dragons too.
I work at a nuclear reactor, and I swear I have been around a nest of spiders, and not a single damn one of them has bit me.
You still can't throw webs.
Not once. But anyway, so the thing is, so when you get like a weird thing like that, like, okay, wings sprout out of your back, or in Star Trek, there's warp drive. Okay, this clearly is outside of the bounds of anything that we know, anything the way that the laws work in this world. That's a fundamental premise of the story.
Yes.
You either accept it going in or you don't.
Right.
Now, that said, everything else, unless you kind of tell me going in or give me a good reason along the way, I assume that everything else works exactly the way it does in this world.
Yes. And that's why I say, if you're going to break a rule of this world, make it purposeful. Mm-hmm. Don't have people like just randomly have 1 foot and there's no reason. Like, if you're gonna break a rule, give it a reason. The reason why Hattie is left home is purposeful to the story. Like, yes, she is abandoned by her mother.
Her mom is terrible.
But she's nice.
She's a workaholic.
She's a terrible
She's
mother.
nice unless she gets questioned.
She's ignorant. Yes, that's true. And then she goes back to being nice. But like the reason why I broke that rule of don't leave kids home alone is because it sets up who she is, gives the excuse for the teacher to come into her life, and also makes it all the more meaningful that this girl who has nobody suddenly has two people who are constantly on her face. Like, yeah.
In my world,
with her options.
in my
Doesn't
world,
always get a choice.
people don't have blue eyes. The only people that have blue eyes are angels. You cannot hide. It's stated. Their eyes cannot lie. They can shapeshift all they want.
Their eyes are always
If
blue.
they're on Phaneura instead of Earth, because everybody and their brothers got blue eyes over on Earth, it's
Right.
fine. They can blend in perfectly fine. On Phaneura, their eyes cannot lie. So everyone's like, I see you. And it puts a big giant target on their backs.
Right.
So they've got to be extremely careful if they're trying to avoid something.
Very important question. Can their hips lie?
Yes, actually. They can. Most,
Unlike her.
Unlike Earth.
most of them,
Shakira,
they're
her
not,
hips
they're, not,
don't
they're
lie.
not allowed to because it's feeling like a human, but most of them take up ballet dancing classes just because.
Thank you, Shakira.
But it's an intentional thing. Like,
Right.
they have
There's a purpose
enemies
for it.
all around them. So they have to be clever. They have to be crafty. They cannot hide their eyes. On Earth, it's just like,
Yeah, and like part of the reason why I mentioned that, as far as like having it be purposeful, is because when I was younger, and then a lot of like new young writers, especially if they're writing like fiction, fantasy, they get so focused on the world building and like this godlike power to create all the rules that you want, that you're just gonna have pages and pages of these rules of this world, or no pages of rules of the world, and like people are just doing stuff and it makes no sense and it's completely like incomprehensible and there's no flow to it. So like to avoid that, bend the rules, make it purposeful. Don't just have page descriptions of it, just like include it in the story. And if you can't, it's not a rule that needed to be changed in the first place, then like,
And that's why you can be like me and just be super lazy and do a contemporary where it is in the world, so you don't have to worry about breaking rules.
Right.
You can just be like, okay, so basically everybody understands how Earth works, so
so we're on Earth.
we're on
Yeah.
Earth.
Yeah.
and then at that point it's like, because I will get stuck. You see me make character development sheets.
Yes.
You see me trying to make a world. I'd be there forever.
Yes, I know. And because I have seen it when we were character building for Navigating the Dreamscape.
Yeah.
And I do remember, like, you were like, I don't know what to put for this question. And I'm like, we don't have to answer it. Like, they're never going to go to the store. It doesn't matter what their favorite food is. I don't even know if they eat. I mean, obviously they do, but we don't have any.
That's always the answer. I always
What does
Mac and cheese.
Jack eat? Souls of the Innocents? I don't even know.
Like, geez, everybody likes ice cream pretty much, so I guess I like that.
Jax likes ice cream.
Oh yeah.
Just throw that out there. And pizza.
Yeah.
It's the triangle cheese.
Anything
The triangle
Patty
milk.
has.
It's triangle milk. The triangle
Yeah.
milk that's on bread.
Anything Patty eats first.
It's true.
That's a good point. That's
Yes.
a good point. You just need to nibble it.
Something
Just
I
take
do
care of
Right,
it.
that's what
this area.
That's actually the scene I just did. Was Aiden brings ice cream to Jax, and at first he gives it to Hattie, and Aiden's like, "No, it's for you." And Hattie's just like, don't even ask.
That's like, yeah, no questions. Okay.
There you go.
Well, it's like at this point it's like
I don't
45
like
minutes.
this flavor.
What's that?
I don't like this flavor.
And she doesn't too. It's mint chocolate chip, which I eat.
Oh.
Unintentional.
Best face ever. Perfect.
Yes. And Jax's description is, it tastes like I drank a glass of milk and brushed my teeth while eating a chocolate bar. To me, that's exactly what it tastes like. I hate mint chocolate chip ice cream.
I love mint chocolate chip ice cream.
I
That's
do
how
too.
you can describe it.
So
So
many chocolate bars.
There you go. Does that taste like you drank a glass of milk, brushed your teeth, and ate a chocolate bar?
No, but if I went and got a frappuccino real quick, I'd probably take care of that.
We've got a vanilla bean.
Dylan, did you want any more of it?
no, it's very bitter. So
It is very
It is very bitter.
I tried to have some last night. It's like, what is it?
It's extremely dark chocolate. I believe Erica brought it.
Yeah, I think she realized she doesn't have it.
That's why it's bitter, because it's dark chocolate.
They had 3
Mhm.
It's
Yep.
bitter because Erica couldn't eat it. The bitterness went into the chocolate.
Yeah,
It used to be sweet.
Sorry, Erica, but we're enjoying it for you.
I'm not, and they're not. It's,
yeah, she said-
72%
she
cocoa.
said
That's
she had
actually
it, so
right up the upper edge. Anything more than 80 is the limit. Anything more than 80 is too much. 60 to 70 is probably perfect for me.
So, I mean, do you draw your like own map of the village just so it's for you?
It depends. Like I said, if it matters. Like with
No, I'm not, but for like for your reference.
for what's that?
For like your reference for the story.
If it matters. Only if it matters. Like with Mad Cat Hat, it doesn't matter where anything is. With Dice Out of the Nothing, I probably should have drawn a slight map because it does matter where stuff is. The mountain, in relation to grandmother and grandfather's house and the river, and then Tanda's house, and that stuff actually does kind of make a difference. Yeah, because I have in my head, but
it doesn't. I'm not saying to be in the story,
right,
but
for your own reference.
Yeah, well, not everybody. In some things, you don't need a map. Like as far as like if you're like writing in a town, it doesn't necessarily matter where things are,
right?
Unless, of course, you mention that there's a specific distance from something else, then you have to remember where that is. But if you just say they went from A to B and then they went back from B to A, it doesn't matter where that is, how long that is.
Like I said, I didn't draw a map for Mad Cat Hat. I probably should have for Dice. So yeah, if it's relevant to the story, plan it ahead of time. Like you do your character maps. You don't put them in the book, but you plan them for you.
I like for mine to have background.
What I usually do is, especially in DTD, they've got somebody with them that knows all the areas they're going to. So he describes the area, or she'll describe it what she's seeing, or he'll be like, "This area is known for blah 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 because this is the blah 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 state." But
right now, you must show it to the audience. There's no hiding. Go show it to the audience.
You guys want to see Hattie and Jack?
Come on, get
the
up.
First time
you guys want to see Hattie and Jax?
The first time that Jax goes ears up.
Go show it to the kids.
Claws out.
It's like I kind of like ears out. It's kind of like claws out, but
it is. Except I'm not going to call it that. He does have claws when they come out. I'm not calling it claws out.
It's like his ears go out, his claws go out, but we can't use claws out. Ears out. Oh, okay.
I don't think they can see it, but that's okay.
I'd probably walk up closer to the screen and show them.
She's like, I don't want to be anywhere near the screen.
Like, I don't know these people.
Good question.
I don't think it's showing, but that's all right.
It's okay.
Maybe they didn't make
It's okay. It's a spoiler anyway.
I can't tell if it looks like his ear is just a triangle floating in his hair.
I kind of
That's
like
honestly, that's where I would go with that.
That or move it up.
and maybe put a strand of hair like in front of it.
Yeah.
I think she was just thinking having it where our ears are.
I don't think it would be. I would think it would go up here because eventually they wear hats to cover them up. And
wait, so they have 4 pairs, but they have the 2 pairs of ears.
And I told
they
her
do. Yes, they have 2 ears. Their other ones don't disappear.
Because she says she sees them.
Yeah, so they're not.
Yeah, that's
So
why
this is where obviously a little bit of world building is important, especially if you're going to have anything illustrated.
Yeah.
You actually got to know how that stuff works.
It's true.
All right, now I can actually.
Do it.
Or if you actually talk to Hollywood and get an option for a movie deal or something somewhere down the road.
There you
that
go.
way you can argue with the studio. No, they have 2 pairs of ears. Damn it! Don't
Mad
change
Cat
it.
will be a wonderful movie and or animated series.
Like
I think an animated series would be better suited for it.
I don't think it needs to be smaller. I think it needs to.
And I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I think it
I
just
just
works
thought
better
they
as
were
like
really
a
small because
animated.
she said that they were.
Incidentally, I think navigating the
Well, 'cause he's
dreamscape would
got a
also work
mop
very
on
well
his
as,
head, that's why.
some sort of
So,
animated.
like with Jinx, it's gonna be
Kind of
very
like
visible.
okay.
Like straight hair.
What's that?
like in the realms of like Rick and Morty and that kind of like cartoon.
Right, yeah. Oh, gosh, yeah.
What show?
Hilarious.
Rick and Morty.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just choosing. I just thought of it because it was a cartoon that did dimension jumping.
Oh, this? Okay. Yeah, like right about there, I would think. Almost like
It's not like that, but it's
that way it's sticking out of his hair. It doesn't look like a triangle, but then you've got the 2 different shades, so it's depth versus the hair color.
Yeah, so anybody watching, feel free to comment on Twitter. Like, what are the issues that you might have with character building or world building or whatever, and how do you overcome them? Because that is the biggest issue. I mean, and what do you base your characters on? Do you base your characters on people you know? Do you base them on like historical characters?
Well, let's talk about that too. Yeah. Like, where do you guys get your ideas for your people?
My ideas come from, like some of the side characters. I put people I know, and they're like one of Kyrie's friends that are, just normal, regular Earth girls. I based her off of one of my friends in high school because I love her to death. She's crazy, and she scared the ever-living hell out of me because she will fight anybody, and she will win every time. And she is only like this tall and about like this.
5 feet of concentrated fury.
Basically, and like she will whoop you, and she will not have a problem with it. And I based one of her friends that. I made one of Kyrie's friends. Every time she's angry, she kicks off her shoes and she ties her hair into a side knot. You know she's pissed when it's a side knot.
Is that like me in the top
see
knot?
the side knot, run!
No, as soon
run!
as you see the shoe fly, that's when you need to run because she's already got the hair up.
I'd say it's too late if the shoes fly. I'm just saying.
But I made her off one of my friends because I was thinking about having a really hot-headed friend and she instantly came to my mind.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt because now I am looking at the comments on YouTube. So, hi, Crystal. Hi, Ann. I don't know who Lord Magma is, but awesome freaking name.
That's Lucas.
Oh, it's Lucas? Hi, Lucas. We watched half of your video. It was really funny, and then I fell asleep. So, I'm sorry. Watching the rest today.
Against your video, she was excited.
You're right. It wasn't because of the video. It was because it was 1 a.m.
Yeah, right.
What did we learn, Jenny?
Not a damn
okay.
thing.
Comment from Crystal that actually relates as opposed to the side conversation going on between everybody on this chat. Crystal says, I personally love going in depth for world building, but I agree with Arlen that you don't want to plan too much because then you're doing more than is actually necessary. Luke says, hope you don't mind me calling you Luke. Lucas, whatever. Lucasio. Doctor Who.
I think he should just be Lucasio.
The gamer.
Because that's awesome.
I'm going to call him the gamer.
The gamer?
Lucio, yeah. I basically just put my basic world building in the first few pages and then just bring up more as dialogue or character development requires, which I agree with that, Lucas, that, you put enough so that people at least have a glimpse into the world. You don't have to outline everything because, like I said, first 10 pages are the big difference. If you start with completely exposition, no one's like, you're lost, you're done.
Yeah.
Yep.
You don't want an exposition.
Yeah, and I figured out a lot of my main characters and everything before getting started, but I know there's going to be like a ton of side characters that just pop up along the way that are necessary for the story to happen. And I'll figure them out as I need to.
Yeah.
That was my thing. Like, I read The Witching Hour by Anne Rice, and I love her, but the first 100 pages were so much description. It took me forever to get through.
The first 100 pages?
Yes, the first.
Oh my goodness!
It made sense for the rest of the story because it was a lot of ancestry stuff.
Right. It is world building. It's like time building too.
Yeah, she was stating how everyone was
I
related
describe
to
each
everyone,
area as I get
like,
to it.
all
Like,
those actors.
this area is
What, 100 damn pages? That's enough.
She sees, but then
again,
this place is
once you read further along in the
Sex
story
trade.
and got past it, it all made sense
Well, that's
why
why
she
I do it.
told you that.
But
But that was hard for me
when they
to
first
pass
walk
that
into the
first
Nightmare
part.
Before Christmas world.
Yeah.
It's described
Yeah.
as perpetually dark,
Brings up another thing.
like a
that-
haunted forest or an abandoned spirit colony.
For the sake of the people listening, let's try to do one conversation at a time
Yes.
because if this is this good of a mic, nobody heard anything we said because there were 3 people talking at the same time.
Yeah.
But I will say Anne replied to Crystal and said, I agree, Crystal, but I have to admit I love world building, so it's easy for me to quickly pile up redundant info. So if you're meaning you were the same thing or, like irrelevant things or something like that, I completely understand what you mean. Anne says, but I suppose you build the world before writing it. And then she says, have you ever read my prose? I usually just put micro poetry on Twitter. And we've all heard your poetry. It's ridiculously awesome.
Mm-hmm.
If you write prose like you write poetry, you've got a fan base already. You could seriously write about you going to the grocery store and we're going to read it or listen to you read it because that would make it even better.
Oh,
Yeah, I agreed.
I think we all agreed that we want an audiobook of her reading.
Oh, yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah, and if you ever do an audiobook, you have to be the one who reads it.
Agreed.
There is no argument here.
Consensus, the vote is yes. Anne
Yeah.
has to read her own. Okay, yes, there we go.
We will, if that doesn't happen, we will actually make sure we do a writer's retreat over on your side of the pond just so we can harass you into doing it.
So she did say, she texted the group saying,
Which I guess is a threat. I mean, we may or may not be able
which
to follow
said in
through on it.
2020 she may be able to actually make it.
Anne will come. I'll get to meet my darling Anne. Oh, the world has just been like raised to a whole
Ring
new
socks.
level.
You really
Anyway.
have to do the
Rain socks. Here we go. Yes. It'll be a road trip. It'll be like a plane trip. We go have to commandeer an airship.
dangerous.
Hey, unless Autumn manages to get me my jetpack by then.
Or are you just gonna like jetpack over there and then come back and get one of us each and every time?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll take a lot of guesses.
Whatever.
I feel like there might be some issues along the way. Like, I don't know, running out of fuel and crashing into the ocean.
Okay, I
Don't
do.
be such a Mega Man.
Yeah.
Just a little swim. It's okay.
I feel my fuel is positivity and a love for life, and I never run out of that.
Honey, jetpacks don't run on positivity for life.
You know.
I'm with Devin on this.
Well, hey, it's never been as bad as Google Maps that tells you to get to Japan by kayaking across the river.
You have a really good kayak, and you can hold your breath for a really long time.
Sorry, not the river, the ocean.
It's a big river.
Well, that's
I do.
one way to do it.
I do want to say in regards to, I'm seeing that Lucas is talking about how he got hit with a new way of doing logistics for his story. And everyone's saying, I'd be happy to read what you write. I'm going to just throw it out there that, Lucas, you did not send anything for us to read last night during the live read. I, for one, am thoroughly disappointed in you. And you should be ashamed.
As you notice, she can't say it with a straight face.
She just tried to go all teacher on you.
She's crying in her disappointment.
Tears. I'm crying on the inside.
Don't let her lie. That crying is because her voice is going.
She couldn't regale us with her karaoke last night.
No, go ahead. You can take that, Jim.
Couldn't regale us with the karaoke last night. So
I
she
tried.
Was
I got 2 lines of Hallelujah before my voice cut out. But anyway.
But of course, that is a deep voice. That is a deep voice song. So you actually probably could have rocked that.
Unless it's done by pentatonics, and then everything's high pitched and great.
Yeah, I couldn't reach the notes. But yes, Lucas, tears. I cried tears because you didn't send me what you wrote. But your Doctor Who video, I mean, a gamer. Like we're into that. Yes, yes. And horse face man. I just
Yes.
Anyway, moving on with the lines. Okay.
How much time we got left?
Oh yeah.
All right, we got 25 minutes.
Yep.
Minute and a
Ginger
half.
girl.
So
Minute and a half
For if we were having it.
for that
Oh.
50
Oh.
50 split.
for if we were doing the
Well,
split.
we've kind of been bouncing back and forth.
We
on
have.
that.
Okay,
Although,
so-
you know what, we kind of talked about world building and we didn't talk about character development at all.
Oh,
so I
that's
guess
true.
we didn't.
Well,
Yes, we have about 30 minutes
we
left.
brought up where you get your inspiration, everything for your characters.
Oh, that's
So let's
true.
roll with that.
Okay, we can go with that.
Most of mine are just I come up with.
Yeah.
Like I have a very few that are based off people like
Right.
Brittany. If Brittany ever sees this, I love you. Don't punch me, please. Because you're violent in the book, just
Or throw
like
a
you are in real
shoe.
life.
There you go.
Jenny's.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'll answer mine last because mine's a little unique, I think, to what most writers
But most of them I just
Depends on the
kind
story.
of create
I was
right
wrong.
off of
Because you're my daughter and I love you.
Mine kind of goes.
Wait, we got to do one at a time or they won't hear anything we're saying. Go ahead, sorry.
Mine is from a story basis. Because obviously, writing fan fiction, all the characters. There's sometimes that I'll use a kind of basic situation or or sometimes I'll come up with the story idea with a character in mind, and so that's in those cases the character just comes to me. So it really is like story by story basis for me what I'm using.
Well, characters with you, navigating. It's the first time I've ever co-authored, and I am so blessed that this is my co-author because we compliment each other so much, and I don't mean like we say you're beautiful, which we do, but it wasn't what I meant. It's more like the things we come up with when we put our brains together is beautiful and freaking hilarious, and this was not intended to be a comedy book. It was, but.
From what you told me, this was supposed to be a comedy book from the get-go. Like right out the gate, just
Okay.
It lends itself to that very well.
That's the thing, is that there's comic relief and then there's your comic relief character took over the story and is now the only one anyone cares about.
Yeah, and he ended up going from the side character that helps the main character to
co-MC status.
Yeah, we can't even define. We literally are like, which one's more important, Costello or Jack?
Yeah.
I don't
Oh my
know.
God, I really want to read your book.
It's so awesome. It doesn't even.
It sounds highly
Send it
entertaining.
to me.
Once this one is done. Navigating
Once we actually
have
have
it
enough
done. Yeah, but this is the way that we've done. I think most of the characters. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was gonna say, are we still talking about characters?
Yes.
I want to get off track.
Yes. We don't want to get off track. That never happens here.
No.
But most of the characters, I think, when I brought her on board, I had already at least named them, except for Lockwood. Lockwood.
I know she's.
I kept calling him that.
You know what? That's what Jack's gonna have to call him.
He's gonna call him Longwood. I know. I was gonna call him like Hard Rock Longwood. But I come in like at least with an understanding of the basis of their role in the story, and then working with her. What happened was once we had a general idea of their personality, anything that we did, we'd be like, I feel like so and so would say this in this situation. The funny thing is, he started doing the same thing with Jack. He'd be like, I feel like Jack would say this if this happened. Like we're at work and something would happen, and that's what he would say. And he'd be like, that's a Jack thing.
That's Jack thing.
Like that's an awesome way to do character building. It's actually similar to an exercise I used to give my students. Like they would have a very basic profile of the character, usually starting with what color hair they have and their eye color and their favorite band or something. But to think about real life situations and your characters that are not from this world, or they are, and think how would they react.
Oh, yeah, I do that.
So you're like, yeah, like if they had experienced our hotel situation, what would they have tell people?
I'm not doing homework.
Yeah, you never did your homework. I assigned you a month ago, but anyway. Yeah, as far as where I get my character ideas from, two places, really. Okay, one is, most of you guys know this by now, with the exception of navigating the dreamscape, all of my fiction novels, I dreamed. Very many of them beginning to end. Some of them just a scene, and it went from there. Mad Cat Hat was just a scene, and I developed it. So that's where I get it. Otherwise, I use real people I interact with as inspiration, reminding me and reminiscent of J.K. Rowling, who was talking to this big burly biker dude who loved animals, and that's where she got the idea for Hagrid. All the time when I'm talking to people, I'll tell them, just so you know, you're about to be in my book. Usually they don't get their own name. In Jolene's case, it's her name. And Kevin, yes, my friend Kevin Carter. And oh my gosh, when he says these things and we just look at him like, wow, you really are that shady map dealer from Egypt who just sold them a map to the ruins.
We want to go to the ruins. Okay, sends them to a car junkyard. What, we wanted to go to the ruins, but they're ruined cars.
How are these not ruins? I don't know.
Because he gave us the money to be here. He's like, so you owe me a favor.
This is the same guy who sponsored our dinner last night, and just like his character in Mad Cat Hat, as soon as he gave it to us, he's like, you guys owe me a favor now. All of you owe me a favor. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then he's like, well, you put you in the book.
You can't get reimbursed for being a character in a book. You're already being reimbursed because you
are the character.
You're a character.
But I do that. That I've really used actual people and then created a character based on that actual person, as opposed to as opposed to just having a character based on, but certain people do borrow because I'm like. Like Arlen does, and then I'll start asking them questions, and I do that all the time whenever I have space in the back of my head, so I truly know them. Which, yes, a lot of the times your writing doesn't actually involve putting words on. Write a premise, every character.
I feel like I do good in the flaw department because self-depreciation, but that's not the point. The point is deprecation, depreciation, whatever. I usually do good with that because I can imagine each flaw on that. Like Kyrie, she's so narrow-minded sometimes and so hot-headed, it's ridiculous. It's like Did you really just said that? But okay. And then there's people. I've got other people who are just so arrogant. It actually makes me mad that I write them because I hate them so much.
Sometimes when you write somebody, you're like, man, that guy's an ass.
And it came out of my head.
Right. Yeah. Jax is not. Jax is a sweetheart.
I said Jack, not Jax.
Just
Sounds like you said
oblivious to what's going on in the world around him.
Jax is just has one focus, and it's that.
Yes, much like the readers, he has no idea what the rules of this world are because they keep changing.
I mean, he used to be a cat, so
You gotta
I guess
hate that. Jessica, what about you? What about you with your characters? Where do they come from?
They're loosely done people I know.
Okay.
Very loosely, and then I, trade it like that. So it'll be based like.
Okay, that's similar to me. The book I'm working on right now is what kind of characters do I need? Character. I need my zealot character. I need the leader. These are the people that I need. And then I developed the personality traits and everything around that. And I actually named them based largely on historical figures whose names either reflect their role in the story or reflect just kind of, not necessarily the role in the plot, but just what they do within the story.
No,
or sometimes it's personality. Like Amelia, it's more about personality than it is about what she actually does.
So I want to ask because you made me think of a question, and somebody did a poll about this. Maybe it was me. I don't know. It sounds like something I would have done. On where did you get your character names from? How do you come up with them? Especially because I noticed a trend, and I hate saying this because this is me too. I noticed a trend in fiction where we try to make these like outlandish names that sound like, that aren't even close to being English, to where people are like, how do you pronounce this? Is it Flurbificadam? No, it's actually Smith because the F is silent. Like, okay.
Everything in it is silent
Right. Except for Smith. Like, those letters aren't even in
baby
the
notebooks.
But what's that?
Oh, there you go.
Baby notebooks.
Yeah, I can see that being
That's what I was
useful.
gonna say.
I literally just
Because it also
come up
tells
with
you
What the name means. Yeah.
We got to do one at a time here, guys.
Basically, I'll either come up with them, just like the name will just come to me, or I'll use baby name websites, or I'll use fantasy name generator.
Okay.
That's a website
I've
that
seen it
has
too.
basically it uses. It's not just fantasy too.
You can like set the culture, right?
Yeah, you can say the culture. You can say, oh, I need names that are this kind of nationality.
Yeah.
So if you have like a nationality, you have a character of a specific, Earth nationality, or you have a parallel, you can say, oh, these are similar to like the Irish. So here's a bunch of Irish names. But then they have other generators on there like street names and things like that. But you're like, oh, I might need that, and I can't come up with that on my own.
What is that process where you come up with a name by looking around? I know there's a specific name where you look at like two specific items and you use those items as a name. Like I'm T. Vaughn of McDonald's Cup or something.
That's funny. And I don't know what you're talking about,
I've
but
seen
that's
that like a trope in movies when they're
It's
like, come up with your name, you're like,
got an actual name.
Oh,
I
yeah,
swear
my
it
name
does.
is George Glass.
I don't know. It's the usual suspects method because Kevin Spacey
yes.
does that. He builds it. It's revealed that if for some reason no one has ever seen the usual suspects. First of all, what the hell is wrong with you? Second, no spoilers. Well, it's a spoiler, so deal with it. The movie's been out for like 30 years.
Yeah.
So,
That's what it is. Kaiser Sose.
Kaiser Sose method?
Yeah.
Oh, see, there you go. That's
that what it's
exactly what I
called?
went to.
I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. It's
Okay.
the Kaiser Sose method.
Oh, see, like I said, that's the exact example I went to. So, yeah, if then anyone hasn't seen that, if anyone's forgotten, at the end of the movie, it's revealed that this whole story that Kevin Spacey is spinning is literally just a story that he's making up on the spot based on random words around this police detective's office.
Yeah.
It's like you're just like it just seeing the detective figure it out. Like this guy's Redfoot, this, that, the other thing is like he figures out when like there's a coffee cup that falls upside down and he notices.
What's
the
name of the movie?
Usual Suspect.
And like, the first most of the movie is just like it seems just like a typical crime story mystery, and then like the last like 2 minutes, you're like, whoa, this is not what I thought it was.
This is not at all what. Oh my gosh!
It catches you for a loop, but not like the zombies from the Fifth Wave series.
Oh my god. Well, yesterday I came up with a name for a monster that was summoned like on the spot, and I was looking at my Tivana cup, and my dyslexia literally just moved all the letters around, and I came up with the most like fantastical monster name ever. And I'm just like, well,
Okay.
this works perfectly fine.
And,
And it's literally just Tivana rearranged.
all right, so, oh yeah, go ahead, Jen, and then I'll read our comments.
Well, I'm in the middle of writing a children's book. So I named my bumblebees Pixie and Yuckles.
And where'd you get the names from?
I don't know. I
You
just
came up with them?
I just came up with them. They just were
It
like
works.
It came to you.
came to
Yeah.
me,
It was
and
a perfectly good children's book name.
There you go.
50 and Yuckles. I like it. I'd read that to my kids.
Like, we've got Kylie. I want to say her name is Kylie, whose book is called Scribbles and Dots, or Scribble and Dot. And the character is a scribble, and his name is Scribble, and the other character is a dot. His name is Dot. And my girls loved that story. And Elizabeth, my artist who can draw freaking eyes like nobody's business, she drew Scribble and Dot. She's like, "Look, Mom, I did fan art." And she drew Scribble and Dot.
Nice.
And I posted it on Twitter.
Love it.
Squirrel and dog.
But I will say comments that we have on here. Lucas says, I may use a D&D draconic language translator for dragon things.
Yep.
Done it.
Like names. So
Yep.
go you. All right. Anne says, someone mentioned Star Trek earlier, and Spock is a good example. His name is easy to pronounce, but still feels different. It echoes the one-syllable name of Kirk, and his first name is kept secret since it couldn't be pronounced by humans. Boom. It's a story around the name. It's an outlandish concept, and it's memorable.
It's true.
That's actually a really good point.
Yes. I
Oh,
like that.
Erica's on. Everyone say hi to Erica.
And kind of similar to that, like,
Did you hit your not so funny ball?
but in a similar.
We have to do triage a minute. We'll be back.
It's only funny when it happens to other people.
Says the guy
That's
who's laughing.
true.
Don't bang your face
Which
on my
is
straw.
why it's kind of funny right now.
But in that similar vein of keeping a name secret, like Doctor Who, everybody is like, oh, it's the Doctor. It's easy to say, and it's like, well, what's your real name? I'm just the Doctor. And it's like, no, you actually have a name. And it's like,
He does.
but we don't know what it is. It's never said what
That's
it is.
right. And some people know it, and whenever they say it, the camera cuts off.
Yeah, so it's like it exists. It's something that people can pronounce. Like he's not like a because he's an alien. It's like it's
Just like
Mr.
it's just a secret.
But it's just a secret, and they made and you think you're gonna figure it out sometimes because they're like the entire plot is all about the fact that it's a secret. It's like the name is very important, and then you still don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's just like Mr. and Mrs. Turner of A Fairly Odd Parents. You never know what their names are.
The name's your mom and dad.
I don't know.
Mom Turner and Dad.
They're Mr. and Mrs. Turner.
episode though where they were going to reveal their whole names, and every time a truck would go by or some kind of explosion.
And didn't they have one where like they were younger, they were like
Yes,
little kids, and their names were still Mom and Dad or something like that, or Mr. and Mrs. still. But
That's
You
hilarious.
can call me Dad. You can call me
They don't-
Mom.
There was also,
Nickelodeon, you need to chill. Is what is happening.
for
right
those
now.
of us who are older, and remember the first mature, right? Remember the first MacGyver series. There was a big thing for years where
Oh no.
nobody knew what his first name was. He was
Right.
just, I'm just MacGyver or Mac. And every now and then they would do something where he like shows him a business card that has his actual first name, and they're just, yeah, I think I'll just call you MacGyver.
so that was like Walker, Texas Ranger. He has the first name, but even his wife calls him Walker.
Yeah,
Like
that's true. It's literally it's just Chuck
My
Norris.
daddy loved that show.
I like it. So
That's
it
good.
was
It's
good.
good enough.
The acting left something to be desired. But
Oh,
anyway,
of course.
so we have updates from the internet. First of all, Erica wants to tell everybody her dog is alive. She's gotten proof of life. Also,
is he
she misses
okay?
us. We miss you
Miss
too,
you
boo.
too. Is the puppy okay?
Yes. Well, otherwise she probably would have said that.
Well,
Okay,
she said a
and then
lot.
Lucas sent me a name, and he thinks I'm gonna be able to pronounce it. Where even Anne's like, "What are you saying?" Elgasek Kovgam.
Welcome.
Kovgam.
You gotta say it
Wow.
like really fast.
Elgasek Kovgam. AKA the doctor. Okay.
I was gonna say AKA Tim.
Tim.
My
I'm
name.
gonna call you Quinn.
My name is Bob.
Bob. That was me reading Moose's stuff last night.
Oh, yes.
I don't know what
I'm just going to call
the Bobs.
them Bob.
No, it's a place.
Anne says, also, I researched the meaning or backstory of a name in regards of mythology and such to match the character sometimes, which, Anne, I think is what everybody's meaning when they say we look up baby names. And you go to, like, the websites, you type in, I want a name that means flight. And, it's a little easier to search on the internet than a book.
Well, please don't name your kids hashtag or something. Please.
These youngins, right?
I know people that have named their kids
And they're
hashtag.
newfangled gadgets.
Like, please do not name your child something terrible that they'll hate you for the rest of their life.
For the letter of the first name is hard.
Yeah.
No, looking for a meaning of a name. Like, if you want to find a name that means flower, you're going to read all 600 pages to find the one that says flower?
Yeah.
And you think that's faster than typing in name that means flower. Exactly.
Or you could just literally name them. Iris, Dahlia.
Eleanor.
You want something that's
Eleanor
not
is
like
a flower?
Blue whale.
Read The Hobbit. I mean, no, not The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
Whale.
Oh, excuse me, Lucas, who has sent me a pronunciation guide. El G Ha Se Ka Ga. Thank you.
Okay, we know how well the pronunciation guide worked last night, so you should probably just start calling him Bob.
Bob it is.
Because you probably just made it worse.
Next time, you need to come here and say it yourself.
That's
There
true.
you go.
That's true.
Yes.
It kind of reminds me of.
You have a porta potty that can take you places. I know you can get here.
It's part of the one.
Yeah.
Like that kind of reminds me of, and kind of in the vein of having really complicated names. For the movie Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Oh my God, yes.
The enchanter's name is
Yes.
The sorcerer's name is Tim. Funny story. Behind the scenes for that, he actually had a really fantastic name, but the actor forgot it, and so he just said Tim. And it's just so funny they left it.
It's Monty Python. Everyone's like, okay.
Okay.
That works.
We have a comment from Crystal who says, I generally just find names that fit my characters, and often the meanings accidentally work out.
I've done that.
Yes, I have to say that has happened to me as well. I don't know that Jack means anything, but Jinx has a meaning, so
I can tell you that it means cat.
yes. And it was really funny.
And then it was like, because Jack had already called him Kitty Cat. And you're like, I don't know what he calls him. It's going to be a nickname for him. It's weird. And we looked up to tell him cat. We're like,
But in some other language, it means dog.
yeah.
Okay, I guess.
That's
He's a cat
confusing.
dog.
4 minutes.
Yeah.
Cat.
Good job, Dylan.
So, any other things we talked about names? Developing characters, and we talked about imagining them in different situations, character profiling. Yeah.
Yeah, which is the thing I've started to do. Where like how will my characters respond to this or that or the other thing?
Yeah.
That's like when I catch one of Turtle Writer's writing prompts. I'll do that. It's like,
Oh, yes.
what would Martin think when he saw something like
Yeah, that's a good one, guys. If you don't follow the Turtle Writers, contact ML Moose author or Rosetta York with an E at the end. But they post some wonderful writing prompts. Even if you're not a turtle writer, great group of folks to follow. And if you don't know what a turtle writer is, it's basically someone who's taking their time to write and not necessarily being asked. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Hand of shame.
Hand of shame.
Hand of shame.
He's a slow writer. but
All right, does
he's making
anyone-
the story work.
Excuse me, it's not shameful to be a turtle writer.
It is for me because I have been doing
Okay,
this
stop it, because Meta and or ML Moose will kick your booty for making it a shame thing. The reason the group exists is because there is no shame
Mackenzie will send Ivy after
in
you.
being a
You know that.
correct.
You want to make sure the story works.
Yes.
All right. So, does anyone have any final thoughts before we wrap? Because we're about at the end of our time. Get a little work done before we head home.
Yes, we have a comment from Crystal, which I think is a good one of the final thoughts here. She says, I really love making psychoanalysis profiles for my characters. It's really fun and helpful. And then Lucas's response was, so you can torture them? Probably. It's Crystal.
There is no probably about it, Crystal. We
By the way,
know
when you
better.
make her mad, she kills your character.
I've only killed one character, and she didn't make me mad, and it was Mackenzie, and I didn't really want her to die. It was for the story. It was needed. No, that's a different book.
For the
That's a
good of the
different book.
story, sometimes you gotta die. Or that.
Yes,
She's going to die.
I will never forgive you.
All right. And anything else before we call it a session here? All right. Hey, thanks everybody out there watching, whoever you are. I don't know
Thanks
everyone
for joining
watching.
us.
Thank you, Arlen, for monitoring the YouTube comments for me. That is always a big help. And it's been a lot of fun here. We just got a little bit of time yet to get some work done, and then we're going to go our separate ways until the next time, hopefully 6 months or so from now.
6 months from now, somewhere else in Illinois, and 6 months after that, somewhere else on the planet.
So keep your eyes on the YouTube channel here for future episodes of Coffee Books Repeat. I've already got a lot of different episodes ideas just from this discussion here. Probably enough to carry us through the next year. So hopefully we'll see some of these people on the show there.
And they might even be watchable and not only be 60 seconds.
And not only be 60 seconds, like whatever it is, the hell it is happened with the last one. I have no idea. I apologize, but YouTube is insane. So also check out other channels that I'm aware of. Check out Erica F. Rose on Twitter, and also Rebecca or Chipmunk Power, I think she is. Chipmunk of Power on Twitter. So she's got a YouTube channel, Weird Writers. So make sure you check that one out as well. And anyone else have anything they want to plug before we officially call it a session?
I think we're good.
All right.
Signing
so
off.
Again, thanks for watching, thanks for hanging out, thanks for commenting, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Cheers, loves.
Will we really see them next time, though?
Probably not. Especially if their legs get like a brother.